if you're grateful for friends, which friend? What did they do specifically that brings you joy and gratitude? And that's one of the things that's going to really catapult it and really create that upward spiral of joy and gratitude is getting specific and getting granular with it is where you're going to find abundance. You'll find a lot of abundance inside of the fact that you've got a lot of specific things you can be grateful for. And one of the things that, outside of this that people usually ask me about is how do you keep it from becoming redundant? If you're writing down gratitudes, if you're talking about being grateful, that it's going to be a redundant thing. And that's what prevents it from being redundant is the moment you start to get specific with it, there's a really good chance it's going to change, tomorrow. That's going to be something different. If today you're grateful for instance, let's say your spouse did something funny this morning, helped you out. There's a really good chance that you could be grateful for your spouse tomorrow. But if you got specific, it would be something different. My name is Thad David. I'm a former Marine Recon Scout sniper with 2 deployments to Iraq. As a civilian, I've now facilitated hundreds of personal and professional development trainings across the country. And it struck me recently that the same things that help civilians will also help veterans succeed in their new roles as well. Join me as we define civilian success principles to inspire veteran victories. Welcome to this week's After Action, where we take a deep dive into a key principle from the previous interview that we had, and I just jumped off with Griff. And what an incredible interview, and just an amazing person doing some wonderful things. If you haven't checked it out, I would definitely recommend go listen to this one. Griff is a former Ranger. He has done several deployments to Afghanistan, to Iraq, and really just doing some amazing things. I mean, if you talk about action, if you talk about doing things that you think about doing when it's like, I think this needs to be done, he is a prime example of getting out and getting after it. And one of the key things that stood out to me was once we started going down the path of the different things that has impacted his transition out of the military, one of the things that he mentioned was a highlight for me. It's something that we've talked about before on here, not in the capacity that he mentioned, but it was the power of being grateful and recognizing gratitudes, recognizing things that you're grateful for in your life. And he mentioned it through the lens of, he always felt like he was grateful, but it wasn't the case. It was very shallow, and he didn't feel like he had really nailed it out. And it wasn't until he started journaling every single day that he really spent a lot of time, really spent a lot of focus on it. And once he did that, he found more and more things to be grateful for, that his gratitudes, things that he was grateful for, really grew. And it hit home for me when he shared how we're always kind of chasing that next thing. If I only had blank, if I only had this, if I only had that. And that's kind of our society. And I think that it goes bigger than a lot of what was mentioned. And I believe he would agree as well. But he mentioned, that he fell into it, that if I only had this truck, I'd be happy. If I only had this house, I'd be happy. If I only had this blank, then I would be happy. And it just doesn't work because we end up getting those things. And then it's so quick on to the next thing that we want in our lives. And I think it even goes more to internal stuff too. If I only felt a certain, and it's the point is to just circle up and talk about internally what you're grateful for. And that's what he shared with himself, that it wasn't until he started journaling and really writing down these specific things every single day that it really changed his life. It changed the way that he lived his life. And so that's my challenge for each one of you, is to really step into that. What is it that you're grateful for right now? What are the things in your life that you have a lot of gratitude for? And take some time each day to write it down. It's really important to take a moment and write it down. I love that he does that every single day. And it was something that he figured out that just worked for him. And I know that one of the powers of writing it down is it's really tough to think about anything else. And when you write things, it creates a singularity of thought, meaning you cannot think about something else. If you're writing something down, your mind has to get hyper focused on the thing that you're writing. Whereas if you think about, if you're texting something or typing something out, you can be thinking about multiple things at a time while you're typing on your phone or typing on a keyboard. But when you're writing, there's something about putting pen to paper that forces your mind to truly think about exactly what you're writing. And so it creates a singularity of thought. So when you take a moment and you pause, you journal every single day, And even just in the morning, and you write down the things that you're grateful for, get really granular, get specific with the items that you're grateful for. Get really, really specific. And so if you're grateful for friends, which friend? What did they do specifically that brings you joy and gratitude? And that's one of the things that's going to really catapult it and really create that upward spiral of joy and gratitude is getting specific and getting granular with it is where you're going to find abundance. You'll find a lot of abundance inside of the fact that you've got a lot of specific things you can be grateful for. And one of the things that, outside of this that people usually ask me about is how do you keep it from becoming redundant? If you're writing down gratitudes, if you're talking about being grateful, that it's going to be a redundant thing. And that's what prevents it from being redundant is the moment you start to get specific with it, there's a really good chance it's going to change, tomorrow. It's going to be something different. If today you're grateful for instance, let's say your spouse did something funny this morning, helped you out. There's a really good chance that you could be grateful for your spouse tomorrow. But if you got specific, it would be something different and so on. And then what starts to happen is you train your mind to actually look for those things, to look for the things that are in your life that you're currently grateful for, because it knows that you're going to ask it to recall it the next morning. And the next morning when you do it, you're going to find that you have more and more and more to be grateful for. And he even mentioned that he started out with a few lines and that he would leave himself, I think he said 2, and now he leaves 4 because he has more things to be grateful for. And it's simply the fact that he's out there recognizing it, and his mind knows that, all right, we're going to have to recall gratitudes, and he's flexing that muscle of gratefulness, of being grateful, and his mind is now seeking it, knowing that tomorrow morning that it's going to be called upon to represent and say, hey, what were you grateful for? What were the things? And so it's going to be looking for it more. And this is why it's such an important thing. Not to mention that, but he mentioned if people are stressed out, other things in your life that you kind of push down that if you're going down into stressful nature, it's really tough to backtrack off of it because that also starts a downward spiral. And so getting up every morning and being very, very intentional about the way that you start your day really steamrolls and pushes things in a very positive direction. And always said that it absolutely changed his life once he really dialed in and got specific with it. And that's my challenge for you, is to step in and get specific, get intentional. I would definitely go back, re-listen to it. I know that was very towards the middle, towards the end is where we had that moment where he shared how he jots down, how he journals every morning. He jots down the things that he's grateful for using these little tiny notebooks, nothing in particular. I think he mentioned he said it was a C.R. Gibson bulleted journal, log journal, and $14 or so on Amazon, and writes it down. And that's good for a pretty long time. So it's not a heavy investment in order to make this happen, but it does have a huge impact on your life. And so that's my challenge. Check out the notebook and then start journaling, start writing down every morning the things you're grateful for. What are you currently grateful for? Knowing that it's just like any muscle. If you're going to start running, start working out, it's going to be a little sore. First time out, you're going to be a little sore. Second time, it might still be a little sore, but give it a week and you're going to start to feel better heading out of that workout. So journaling and practicing gratitudes and gratefulness is the same thing. First time out might not feel so great, might feel a little different, might feel a little wonky. Second and third time, fourth time, you're going to start to feel good. Give it a month, and I promise you, you're going to start to notice things in your life that are already right here, already within your reach that you're currently grateful for. And that's a beautiful thing. Until next time.